We were just kind of talking about cyber attacks, and with all the violence that we see in different places, I think people forget just how susceptible we are, even at the local level, to a grid attack, a cellular network attack, water supply attacks. There are a lot of different things. When you look at government agencies in Mississippi in terms of security, readiness, preparation, how much of that is part of what you and your office are doing?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we're actually going to release a study later today that actually speaks to the danger to some of our state agencies who are at risk of hacking. It actually is a part of our responsibility under state IT regulations. The state auditor's office has to make sure that, has to check and see if certain state agencies are complying with some IT regs that prevent them from getting hacked. So I'll give you a very simple example. Every state agency, every few years, is supposed to go out and they're supposed to get a third party, so like a private business, to come in and test their IT system for its vulnerabilities. It's called a pen test to see if it's vulnerable to hackers. And the study that we're going to release later today, I'll talk about it for the first time on the show this morning, is looking at how many agencies actually have complied with that reg and have actually gone out and gotten their system tested. And the alarming fact here is that about a third of all state agencies in Mississippi have not gotten that test, which means that they are incredibly vulnerable to hackers. This is a big, big deal for Mississippians because state government has your personal information. State government has information that, if leaked, could lead to your identity being stolen. You think about all the details that Medicaid has or the Department of Revenue has. They have your state tax returns. This is a big deal. And so we talk about these findings, not because it's fun to highlight how vulnerable state agencies are, but because this has got to be fixed so that Mississippians' personal data doesn't get out in the open.
Did you find that was simply oversight, or was it negligence?
So here's a challenge of being a state agency head in Mississippi. There's a ton of regulations that you have to comply with, and they're hidden all over the code. And I think some of these agencies simply don't know, or they forget that there is this rule that they have to go out and they have to get tested every few years. Some of them know, but maybe their senior IT person retires and nobody picks up the baton and says, hey, it's time for us to go get tested. But there are huge risks here. I'll give you another one. One big risk for any state agency or business is the threat of ransomware. So what happens in this scenario is a hacker comes in, gets into your system, locks up your computers, locks up your email system. Employees can't access their email, they can't access any of their data, and then the hacker will send a message to the administrator saying, hey, if you want access to your system again, you got to pay me $50,000 in Bitcoin.
Right.
Well, then what does the state do? You basically have two options. You can restart your entire system, meaning lose all your data, all the emails, all the information you have, go go back to zero and start over, or you can pay them the money, which is taxpayer dollars gone down the drain. It's a dangerous
Does the state have a policy on that? Because I know there are lots of companies that they don't want to do it, but they can't afford to lose all the data, as you just described a second ago, and so begrudgingly they will pay the ransom.
Yep. I think a lot of local governments have paid the ransom in the last few years. The